This week on Retrospect Rewind. In 1992, now Halloween wasn't the only focus this week as the Royal Commission on Aboriginal Peoples makes a stop in North Battleford.
I kind of feel like I'm in a courtroom and for the first time I'm being listened to, but I'm very thankful that I have the opportunity to speak and being heard.
Called A Time to Talk, A Time to Listen. The Royal Commission on Aboriginal Peoples took their second round of talks to North Battleford yesterday. Former First Nations leader George Erasmus and past Saskatchewan Premier Alan Blakeney acted as commissioners, and both had a chance to listen to the concerns surrounding Native issues. An elder of the Muskeg Lake Reserve spoke of the high population of Natives in young offender centres.
Majority of kids in the place is Natives. Twice I've been there, and once I saw two little white guys. The rest were Natives, and it really hurt my feelings.
And Sask Native Addictions representative Margaret Ruda told the Commission non-Natives in the justice system should get involved in Native traditions.
And maybe sometimes having a healing circle together with these people would open a door so that we don't feel like we're being judged because we're different.
Just 4 days after Canadians rejected the Constitutional Accord, the Commission is also addressing the issue of Native self-government. And for presenter Gary LaPlante, the government is moving too quickly on the issue.
The Indians are being herded into as something like the buffalo were into a buffalo jump, you know? I know we've been, Aboriginal self-government is a concept that's been talked about for a long time, but still I think when they look at the concept of time, they don't look at a decade or a few years.
But members of the Confederation of Tribal Nations think Natives have the sole responsibility of planning their future government.
That in a sense the agenda needs to be set by First Nations now, not the other way around. Not waiting for further First Ministers meetings, not waiting for national initiatives and further round tables. That it really comes back to where it has been in the long run, historically, in the lapse in First Nations peoples.
The Commission is also trying to hear concerns of non-Natives. Battleford's MLA Doug Anguish spoke to the Commission over concerns surrounding a logging blockade near Meadow Lake. Anguish says the Commission should look at ways to resolve clashes between traditional and non-traditional Natives.
Because I don't think it's possible to find one pat answer. What I would hope would happen out of the Royal Commission is that there be some type of a framework developed for a process that as many people as possible have confidence in that the process will work for them.
After the presentation, George Erasmus said non-Natives are taking steps towards accepting Aboriginal peoples and their culture, but he feels the move isn't going quickly enough.
But I think what's needed is a much faster approach to change, because the impact of old policies, bad policies, whether they were Christian church or government, is still very much being felt and moving its way through the Aboriginal community.
The Commission will publish its findings this December. The second round of talks begin in March. In North Battleford, Darcy Modine, NewsHour.
Coming up on Retrospect Rewind. In 1997, Lakeland College welcomes prospective students to their second ever open house. Welcome back to Retrospect Rewind. We begin Retrospect this week in 1992 with then Prime Minister Brian Mulroney in the border city. Mulroney spoke at Lakeland College ahead of the Charlottetown Accord referendum.
Prime Minister began his final constitutional pitch alongside Saskatchewan Premier Roy Romanow and local MPs Don Mazankowski and Bill McKnight. A mainly partisan crowd of nearly 700 people gathered at Lakeland College. They were a mix of local residents, along with Yes supporters bussed in from Edmonton and Vegreville. They were there to hear Brian Mulroney's final attempt to get Canadians to vote yes in Monday's national referendum.
The Prime Minister of Canada, Brian Mulroney.
The Prime Minister made an emotional speech in which he pleaded with undecided Canadians to put aside their differences and come together and unite.
And this is an opportunity for all of us who believe in Canada. Nous croyons dans le Canada, que ce soit au Québec ou en Saskatchewan. Nous sommes tous des Canadiens. As Sir John A. Macdonald said 125 years ago, let us be English or let us be French, but above all, let us be Canadians. That's what it's about. Monday night.
For members of the local Yes campaign, Mulroney's speech only reinforced their support for the Charlottetown Accord.
As a Canadian who's been from Bonavista to Vancouver Island, the greatness of this country was realized in 1867, when 4 provinces got together and formed a nation. It was a miracle. It was a compromise. It was an experiment. And today, 125 years later, we're asking people again, is that experiment worth it? Should we continue it again? It's a gamble. Maybe you think it's a gamble, but yes, is a smaller gamble than no. And the experiment is certainly worth pursuing.
Thank God they found it in their hearts and their minds to rise above the intolerance, to rise above the naysayers, and say yes to a decent and honorable and generous nationhood that has always been ours and always can if we say yes to each other as Canadians.
I guess I was disappointed.
Herb Sparrow is one of only 2 senators to publicly reject the Charlottetown Agreement.
So I think what he tried to do today was to come out here and belittle those people who would be voting no, and I think that's unfair. The Prime Minister of this country should be explaining the issues to us, explaining where it will help us and where maybe we have to give a little, not just threatening this country of the economy and a breakup of the country.
Sparrow is not the only one unimpressed by Mulroney's visit. Local Reform Party members say the Prime Minister arrived at the same time when most of their forces are at a party convention in Winnipeg. Now, despite the negative reaction, by all appearances, Mulroney remains confident of a yes vote on Monday.
Prime Minister, your campaign is now over. Given what you know now, is there anything you would have done differently?
I think we're going to win, and so I'm quite happy.
And as he left, Mulroney said despite the outcome of Monday's referendum, he will lead his Conservative Party into the next election. Chris Krieger, NewsHour.
Now, in 1997, Lakeland College welcomes prospective students to their second ever open house.
Lakeland College laid out the welcome mat today. This weekend is open house at the school, only the second one since the school first opened. About 30 booths were set up throughout the main hallway. Schools from smaller communities around Lloydminster dropped by. It was a good opportunity to see what the college is all about.
It's a cool college. It's good. It seems really good.
It's for the community at large, for the region, for the community. Not only those people who we might see as prospective students, but people from all age groups, from all sectors of society. We feel that we've got a comprehensive community college here, and we would like to draw representative groups from across the community into our doors.
Well, this is just one of the many booths set up here at Lakeland College for their open house weekend. It's not just the 3 R's anymore. There's basically a course for everyone. And that's because the school is busy doing its homework. An advisory board's been formed. This way, industry tells the college skills that students should have. The school then offers new courses, and in turn, students get more jobs. Some of the students believe there are many other bonuses to attending this college.
Well, personally, I'm from Lloydminster, so I have the advantages of living at home, so I don't have living expenses to pay for. And it's the exact same education that you're getting in a smaller surrounding, and it transfers completely to a university. And whereas if I'm in a class of 30 people, I can actually get help, and the professor's going to know my name, while I'm getting equal education to someone who's in a class of 200, say at the U of A or U of S, and they're only known as a number.
If you missed today, don't worry, the open house runs Saturday as well. Doors open at 9 and close at 4. Richard Ozero, NewsHour.
Coming up on Retrospect Rewind. And in '97, organizers at the Fur and Feather Show deal with a decline in youth participation. Welcome back to Retrospect Rewind. In this week's Retrospect, we start in 1992 with two local sports organizations discussing the need for another ice rink in Lloydminster.
The purpose of it was to take a look at the need, the actual need of, and if there needs to be more ice in the community, and also to look at the possible improvements and renovations that we need to consider for the present facilities that we have.
Minor hockey and the figure skating clubs are two of the biggest ice users in the city, and both feel a new artificial ice arena is long overdue.
As minor hockey, we feel there is, because basically right now we've got to rent ice out of town. We have some kids that only get to practice at 6 in the morning, and once we get into leagues, there are some teams that only get on the ice every 6 to 7 or 8 days, and that's only for an hour. So we feel that they deserve more than that. You know, we should be getting every team on the ice 2 to 3 times a week, and we're not getting that.
Well, the figure skating club has always maintained there certainly is a need. Not only us, but other users of ice in the community. There's no question.
Both organizations feel right now their groups are being affected. Minor hockey has seen a jump of 10% this year and not enough ice to go around. While the figure skating club membership hovers around the 200 mark, the maximum they can handle under the present situation. Both groups recognize that major renovations are needed at the Civic Center, but without another ice surface, the chances of holding provincial tournaments are out of the question. Results of the survey, good or bad, will be known the end of this month, and a public meeting has been set for the early part of November. Keith Snellgrove, NewsHour Sports.
And in '97, organizers at the Fur and Feather Show deal with a decline in youth participation.
That's what we're all after, yes, is more young blood. That's what we want to get in.
Palmblad and the rest of the judges at this year's Golden Feather and Fur Show are watching a decline in the number of youngsters participating. One of the reasons for that is the amount of other activities vying for the kids' time and energy.
Take a young kid that's, say, 10 years old and tell them that, you know, what you're going to do is raise chickens and show them at shows. When they can play soccer, play hockey, stuff like that, I think showing chickens and stuff like that is probably, you know, not the #1 priority.
Organizers of this year's show and a longtime exhibitor have partnered to try and increase interest amongst youngsters. They've created the Charlie Sjogren Junior Poultry Project.
We ended up with a total of 8 kids. They got 6 chicks from about like 3-4 day old chicks, and they raised them and then brought them here to this show. Results so far really favorable.
The youngsters were given just a brief judging seminar before entering their chickens in the show. Klinke says they plan to make the project a little more educational next year.
Well, this year was kind of, you know, here they are, raise them, see how you make out. Next year we're looking at getting maybe a little more into the grooming of them. How do you get them prepared for a show? You know, things you should be looking for a little bit more.
Industry officials hope the poultry project in junior classes and shows like this one will provide the new blood necessary to follow in their footsteps.
We stay down to their level, you know, and help, because they're going to be the ones after a while, and you don't want to discourage them, because they're going to take my place one of these days.
Josh Clausen, NewsHour.
Coming up on Retrospect Rewind. Moving forward to 1998, area producers are facing a rodent issue. Welcome back to Retrospect Rewind. We start Retrospect this week in 1994 with a Wainwright area MP looking for the community's view on medical-assisted dying.
I want to hear your points of view on the issue, and the issue tonight that we're talking about, maybe physician-assisted suicide. You could also call it mercy killing, euthanasia, or death by choice.
The issue of physician-assisted suicide, or someone helping someone else to die, was front and center last night in Wainwright and brought out various opinions about the controversial issue, an issue that the federal Liberals have promised a free vote on in the House of Commons later this year, with all MPs voting on the issue.
I don't think it's right for you, me, or anybody else to make a decision when somebody's time is up. I think God has got the only right there.
Well, I don't know, and that's why I'm here tonight, I guess, to find out both sides, and I'm getting the feeling I'm only hearing one side, and I want to keep my mind open and make sure I have both sides of the story.
Before Reform MPs cast their ballot on this contentious issue, they want to know what the people they're representing have to say. Benoit is strongly against physician-assisted suicide, but everyone living in Benoit's constituency can expect to receive a survey in the next month to voice their opinion on the issue, and what they have to say will be heard in Ottawa.
I don't know that I'm hearing a balanced view. That's why the survey is critical. And then that's why the survey will be going out to every household in the constituency. And I will vote for what the majority of the people that return this survey tell me.
Moving forward to 1998, area producers are facing a rodent issue.
It can be a very serious economic hardship to many farmers.
As if producers don't have enough to worry about in the spring, now is also the time to plan for rodent control, specifically pocket gophers and Richardson ground squirrels. Vertebrate pest specialist John Bourne says they can wreak havoc on your farm.
Damage to machinery and so on, because these animals leave large deposits of soil on the surface, and it also may preclude harvesting, and may even preclude the use of a pasture land simply because it's so heavily infested.
Bourne says population numbers do not seem to be dropping, so it's a management issue, and there are several tools available to producers to control the rodents. They include ready-to-use baits as well as anticoagulants, which are mixed on the farm.
The downside to the anticoagulants is that you'll probably need a second and maybe a third feeding of the ground squirrels. The ready-to-use baits, such as this ready-to-use bait, is a strychnine-based bait that is already mixed with the grain.
Richardson ground squirrels can also be eradicated with a new ready-to-use zinc phosphide mix, traps, or fumigants. However, if you have a serious problem, you'll want to use either a ready-to-use or anticoagulant. For pocket gophers, the traps and zinc phosphide mix can also be used, as well as some strychnine-based products. Bourne says he has not seen any pocket gophers or ground squirrels become tolerant to those baits. However, there is sometimes what's called bait shyness.
When you do place out even anticoagulants, you place out enough so there's a sufficient bait for the rodents to consume to reduce that population down to a tolerable level. If there's a good time, this is probably as good a time as any. You've got adult males, adult females for ground squirrels emerging now, and by removing those animals, you're removing 6 or 7-fold the problem you might have 2 or 3 months from now.
In 1994, with the then Lakeland College president losing a confidence vote.
A vote of confidence by faculty members of Lakeland College has shown the organization isn't impressed with college president Doug Schmidt. Out of 133 eligible voters, 121 cast a ballot, with only 33 members in favor of the president and 84, or over 70%, against the Lakeland leader. Faculty Association President Doug Miller says his group has these concerns with the president.
Style of management. It's a non-collegial style of management, all right? Non-participation of the other groups within the system, within the college itself. And we just do not feel that we have any input into what happens.
I'd disagree with that they aren't involved. First of all of our academic decisions go through an academic council, in which is made up of equal representation of faculty, students, and administration. So any decisions on curriculum or program are put through that council.
The vote of confidence isn't the first survey that has slammed the president. A president's survey last spring reflected much the same views as the latest vote, as the faculty feel Schmidt isn't doing his job effectively, and the channels of communication between the two are closed.
Look, we have big problems, and you can't deny them. The last survey is pretty conclusive evidence of that. And we feel that it's all on the president. I mean, he's been hired to run the institution. If he can't do it for whatever reason, and he can't bring the masses together to work together, then I think you have to look at doing something with that individual.
That opinion, if you want to say it, is not shared universally through the college. We've got a lot of positive staff. I've received, I guess the upside of all this is the number of calls I've received from the communities, especially Lloydminster and Vermilion, from students and from staff.
So there's definitely a difference of opinion here at Lakeland College. Faculty Association President Doug Miller feels his group's concerns are falling on deaf ears, while Lakeland President Doug Schmidt feels his doors are always open and he's doing a good job.
And now, in 1998, we meet two Lloydminster men with over a dozen reptiles.
These creatures seem to enjoy their home in the basement of a Lloydminster residence. They're the pets of the Border City snake men. Kim Ducker and Grant Armstrong own 13 different non-venomous snakes and would someday like to set up a reptile museum. They're hoping to dispel the myth that snakes are dangerous.
We're basically trying to get the point across that movies portray them as evil and they're always out to get you type of thing. Eh? And we're just trying to teach kids and anybody that'll listen that snakes are basically harmless. They're more scared of you than you are of them.
Both men have been bitten, although they say it wasn't the fault of the reptiles. Ducker says it's tough to find people who will support their idea.
I haven't met anybody that's actually said, well, that's a neat idea. They all look at me like I'm crazy. Because like I said, there's so many people out there with the I can't believe you actually got snakes in your house attitude. Eh? It's hard.
This is the tail end of the Border City snake man's pride and joy. She's a 15-foot albino Burmese python named Crystal.
Okay.
Crystal eats about 5 chickens a month and currently weighs around 45 pounds. However, she could grow to be 28 feet long and weigh around 200 pounds. Ducker says the best way for people to overcome their fear is to get close to the creatures.
You really have to handle them to get to trust them, you know, because it's one thing to say that they're harmless, but it's another to actually handle them and show them. We've had people come in that wouldn't even come into the house to begin with. And then once we coaxed them in and then talked them into handling a snake, I couldn't let them release it. They wouldn't let go.
This has been our week in Retrospect.